Okay, if everybody could wave at the camera so that they know I've got an audience.
Hello.
And I'll get started. My name is CFine, and today I'm going to talk to you about the great big breakup that I think everybody needs to go through. We've reached a place in our lives where everybody and everything tends to revolve around screen time. And in a lot of cases, it's social media. Now, social media is not the most brilliant influence in our lives. It's actually not even the newest influence in our lives. Social media and chat rooms and things like that have existed since the dawn of the internet. Actually, they predated if you go back to Usenet and billboard chats. So this has actually evolved in my lifetime, and I personally have grown up with the internet and the social media bent. So that's me and my background, and I have one other wonderful thing that I believe sets me apart from a lot of people, and that's I broke up with social media. So as we get going, you'll start to understand more of why. So what is social media? Social media is the electronic delivery. It's used for a lot of different purposes like networking and photos, videos, content sharing, but above all, the unifying thread is the feedback loop that's involved in this type of communication. Social media can be everything from professional social media like LinkedIn to your more day-to-day speaking like Skype or communicating like YouTube. So for the purposes here today, I want to be very specific about which types of social media that we are talking about, and that is those that are really only used for the social sphere. We're going to go ahead and we're going to let Instagram off the hook. We're going to let LinkedIn off the hook. We're going to let a few others like Blogger and Tumblr because they're their own particular niche. They aren't the type where you will spend absolutely every day of your life if you let you on and off the internet. Now, so that's going to leave us with specifically these three. You've got Facebook, you've got Twitter, and you've got Snapchat. And depending on your predilections and your age group, you probably interface with one of these on a daily basis in some way, whether it be to communicate with people, to look up business, or something like that. So they do have functional uses, but there are also a lot of applications that came about that built the backbones of them. All these things do is aggregate it. So if you want to communicate with a business, you might say use Yelp or Foursquare. You could also try calling the business directly or Google businesses. But we make the choice to engage with businesses through some of these machines. And that can be good and that can be bad. It can get you an instant response, but you're actually not reliant on it as the only form of communication with them. Now, we were able to do this before. Promise we can do it again. I've done it. So, according to Statistica in 2018, the average human in the world, and especially the developed nations, spent upwards of 135 minutes a day engaged with social media. The greater majority of that is through those big three. That is a little over 2 hours of your time each and every day. What would you do if somebody looked at you and said, here, I'm going to give you a 26-hour day instead of the 24-hour day? You could learn a new language, you could play sports, you could watch another couple episodes of Game of Thrones. There's a lot of things that you can do, but social media is ultimately a time vampire. And one of the things that a lot of people need to assess is whether or not that is a good use of your time versus something that you are just pumping currency into for no reward. Now, there have been a lot of studies about social media and the impact on the psyche as it pertains today. It soaks up your time, it makes you anxious. You are actually in a relationship with your social media accounts. And on a lot of times, it's a bit like having a bad boyfriend around, because you log in, you get arguments, you get fights. Yeah, you might see a pretty picture once in a while, you might get an update from grandma, but most of the time what you're seeing is a lot of this, or a lot of argument, or a lot of stress. Now, those stress loads have actually been linked causally, but not quite perfectly. What they've found is that with amount of time spent on Facebook in particular, Facebook, Twitter, or Snapchat, it directly correlates to college GPA. The more time you spend on Facebook, the lower your overall GPA is. So it's soaking up time. You could use that to study. It soaks up your morale. And that leads to all kinds of problems. What they're also finding is that social media usage is actually linked to loneliness, anxiety, and depression, especially in today's young. They feel isolated in ways that my generation never did, because we had face-to-face conversations. Now, I've heard the argument that social media helps the socially anxious to connect. Yeah, not so much. We've had all kinds of articles published in things like Psychology Today that have said that quite the opposite. So what is social media really doing for us other than being a bad boyfriend? It just is what it is. So what are you going to do about it? Well, the first big step is to break up with it. That's what you should do in any bad relationship, because you do have a relationship with your social media. You break up with it. It's like breaking up in a small town. You're still going to have to see it. You're still going to have to engage with it a little bit. But ultimately, it is your job to manage it. What you present on social media is there forever. It is there for your employers. It is there for your grandkids. So do you really want to put that out there? Now, you can't get rid of it entirely, because in today's world, you need some kind of social media footprint. So pretend it's your ex-boyfriend. Put out there only really what you want employers and people to see. Go ahead and post vacation photo. Don't post how you're feeling. Unfortunately, that's just giving more ammo to your ex. And lastly, go live. There is a huge, big, beautiful world out there. There are books, there are movies, there are music, there is everything in this world and so much opportunity ahead of you. Reclaim those 2 hours a day and go live. And so I would encourage you all to break up with your social media. Thank you for listening.